Found my husband's dating profile. Hey Reddit eyes plus here. It was a cool, quiet evening in our quaint little town, and as usual, the house was settling into its nocturnal rhythm. After decades together, my husband and I had developed a well-rehearsed routine, but tonight felt different. The tension of the past year had cast a long shadow over our relationship, and I was particularly sensitive to any deviation from the norm. We've been together for over 30 years, and like any long-term relationship, ours has had its share of highs and lows. The past year, however, had been exceptionally turbulent. My husband had a mental breakdown late last year, and ever since, we had been struggling to find solid ground. I've been doing my best to support him despite my own physical and mental health issues, but it often felt like we were drifting further apart. That night, as I climbed into bed, I noticed that he had fallen asleep with his phone resting on his chest. This was not an uncommon occurrence, and I typically took his phone and placed it between our pillows to prevent it from falling to the floor. But tonight, something caught my eye. The phone screen was still on, and there was a woman's face staring back at me. At first, I assumed it was just another piece of adult content, which, while not ideal, wouldn't have been entirely surprising. But something about the image made me look again, and to my shock, I realized it was a dating site. My heart began to race, and I felt a cold sweat break out across my skin. I didn't want to wake him, so I carefully snapped a quick picture of the screen with my own phone. I didn't know what to think or do, so I placed his phone back between our pillows as usual and lay there, staring at the ceiling. My mind was racing, and sleep was impossible. He stirred, reached for his phone somewhat frantically, plugged it in, and did something on it before drifting back to sleep. The following day, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I was more distant than usual, and I could tell he noticed. He seemed a bit sheepish, as if he was trying to gauge if I had seen anything. We have always been open with our phones, knowing each other's passcodes and often using each other's phones for music in the car. I wondered if he had changed his passcode, though I didn't check. Feeling overwhelmed and confused, I confided in a close friend. They were just as shocked as I was and offered to help by creating a fake profile on the dating site to see if they could find my husband's profile. Sure enough, they found it. His profile was fully filled out, indicating that he was actively looking. I had screenshots of everything now. There were no messages when I first discovered the profile, so I couldn't tell if he was actively communicating with anyone, but the existence of the profile was enough. Our relationship had always had its challenges, but there was something deeply unsettling about this new revelation. Historically, there had been elements of coercion that I had only recently come to understand and was struggling to process. His insecurities had become suffocating, and he had even accused me of having an affair with a mutual male friend, which was completely unfounded. I wasn't sure what I wanted from sharing this story, but I needed to hear others' thoughts. Ending a 30-year relationship is not a decision to be taken lightly, but the thought of enduring another 30 years of this was unbearable. Confronting him about this felt daunting, and I was at a loss for how to proceed. This post, written from an alternative account to avoid recognition, was my attempt to seek advice and perspective. There was so much more to our story, but sharing everything felt too risky. I hoped that by putting this out into the world, I could find some clarity and perhaps a way forward.